Awesome. Welcome to Pitch Us. My name is Tim Cooley. I'm the author of the Pitch Deck book. I'm also the executive director for Park City Angels. Joined with us today are Jeff Erickson and Earl Foote. Jeff, why don't you do a brief introduction?
Yeah, hi, Jeff Erickson. As Tim mentioned, I am with Forecaster. We do financial modeling or make financial modeling simple for founders. Also an angel investor and a startup fanatic.
Earl?
Sure. First of all, thanks for the invitation, and what an awesome platform and opportunity for budding founders to get some feedback before they actually pitch in real life. So great job, Tim and Jeff, on putting this together. My name is Earl Foote. I am founder, CEO of Nexus IT. We are an organization that provides outsourced IT support, cybersecurity, and compliance services for businesses nationwide. I have been doing that for nearly 2.5 decades, have done several other ventures and startups in my journey. I've mentored a lot of founders as well, and have been an angel investor on different levels throughout my career. Certainly am not a guy who profess to have all the answers, but I've done a lot of things, so I've had a lot of experience.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, Earl, as one of our guest investors today. Lance, we're really excited to hear what you're up to. And one of the goals of our show really is to kind of highlight the back end of investing. So we see a lot of deals, and a lot of entrepreneurs don't get to hear like what really goes on after they present. And so we're really trying to expose that. So with that being said, Lance, why don't you share your screen with us? And then whenever you're ready, just pitch us.
Sounds great. All right. Can you guys see that okay?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Well, hey, again, thank you as well for allowing me to be on the podcast. I'm thrilled to be here, and I'll jump right into it. My name is Lance Garvin, and I'm a co-founder of a company called Mojo. And the problem that we address at Mojo is the cost of turnover within organizations. So workplace motivation and productivity, as you guys know, are at all-time lows, and stress and anxiety are at all-time highs. And the cost of turnover is crazy out of control. People have a lot of opportunities right now. In 2018, the total cost of voluntary U.S. turnover was $617 billion. And that's just here in the U.S. 50% of leaders are seeking new jobs post-pandemic. These are your corporate cheerleaders as well. These aren't just your lower level employees. These are the top of the line who usually have the best compensation packages, the best benefits packages, et cetera. Half of them are looking to move on. 20% of workers who quit, sadly, now regret the decision of having left their previous organization. And it's a lose-lose situation that the organization wasn't able to keep them as well, knowing what we know now. 75% of Gen Z have quit a job for mental health reasons, along with 50% of millennials have done the same thing. And the average number of years a millennial stays in a job are 2.9, and the cost of losing a senior executive is up to 200% of their salary. So you've got all these things working against you as an organization, and we're not done yet. Recent studies from Qualtrics show that another 28% of people are looking to make a move from where they currently are as well. So we're just it still keeps on going. Well, our mission here at Mojo is to reduce the employee turnover by helping every employee discover what motivates them at work and to find more satisfaction in the jobs and in the work that they do. Well, why motivation? Well, if you're familiar with the cult classic Office Space, Peter Gibbons says, well, it's a matter of motivation. And we found that, when the motivation is present, there's higher quality work and greater output. People are accomplishing more, and they actually earn higher incomes. They make more money. And one of our favorite metrics is this, that those most satisfied with their work are 150% more likely to be happier in life overall. And isn't that really what so many of us are looking for, is just to be happy in life? And I don't know anybody who's happy necessarily or unhappy at work, but still happy in life necessarily. It bleeds over, especially these days. Well, the opportunity for this is in 2020, North American corporate spending on employee training and development initiatives was $165 billion. There's a lot of money being spent to try to develop people. A U.S. assessment market by 2027 is projected to be at 100 or at 11.5 billion. And if we just capture 1% of that market, we'll be a $115 million company. Well, I mentioned assessments, and there are a lot of assessments out there. And Mojo is a SaaS platform where we deliver the motivators assessment. And Tim and Jeff, I believe you two have had an opportunity to take it. Earl, I'd love you to take it as well. But the motivators assessment is the world's most statistically valid tool for assessing and measuring workplace motivation. And this is based on a 10-year global study we did in conjunction with Towers Watson, or Willis Towers Watson, if you're familiar with this billion-dollar data firm. And it surveyed over 1 million working adults. And then we developed the assessment itself with a team of PhDs and organizational and clinical psychologists. So the science is behind it as well. Well, as soon as I say assessments, probably some things come to mind. You're probably familiar with a number of different assessments out there. And this is what the competitive landscape looks like. Personality assessments, that's one of the most common types out there. It's great to know who we are, how we interact with certain personalities, how we like to be communicated with, that type of thing. We work a lot with organizations who use personality assessments, and they're great. Strengths assessments as well. It's good to know what you do well, what skills you bring to the table. And again, we work with so many organizations that use strengths assessments in what they do. Well, the interesting thing is you can be really good at something and not necessarily enjoy it, or possibly even hate doing it, which causes disengagement, which causes people to start to look in other directions. Well, where we come in is we identify what actually gets people out of bed in the morning, what gets them excited, and how do we identify those, and how do we give people more of that type of thing in the work that they do? How do we play to those motivators? How do we connect to those? Well, the solution for us is the motivators assessment. Again, all the work that we do, we have people take the motivators assessment as step number one. Step number two is to use the motivators platform, where not only you can disseminate the assessment to all the participants, but you can also compile aggregate team reports and aggregate data like that. You can see what are the top motivators for the organization overall? What are the top motivators for this division? What are the top motivators for our sales team? And you can get those insights, and there's a lot you can do with that. Lastly, we do offer professional services to a lot of our clients. They like us to come in and consult and perform workshops and that type of thing. But the big focus for us is really these first two items, the motivators assessment and the motivators platform. The great news here is that we're not just a paper napkin concept. We're actually having great success with the motivators assessment, what we're doing here. This first line up here, starting with Choice Hotels, shows some of our clients that we currently have on multi-year agreements, most of them at 3-year agreements. Choice Hotels, Exact Sciences, Boehringer Ingelheim, some of these you may be familiar with. We also have on this next line 150 plus key clients who regularly use the motivators assessment. And I'm guessing you probably recognize most, if not all, of these logos, and we have many more that use us on a very regular basis. And the exciting part here is that a lot of these have proposals on the table as well to move toward a multi-year agreement. Year-to-date revenue for 2022 so far is $530,000, and $152,000 of that is in ARR. 2022 target is 1.2 million with $500,000 in ARR. We have 0 debt, and we have about a $50,000 a month monthly burn rate. And then we've also got a database of about 75 or more than 75,000 unique assessment takers. Well, the ask that we are looking for is a seed round of $500,000. About a third of that, just over a third of that, would go toward marketing, indicated in the gray here, things such as scaling our digital marketing, of which we're really not doing any right now, but we need to. Marketing automation, trade shows, those types of functions. Development, we put about almost 18% there to help improve our UX and UI design, our software engineering, enhance our reporting and some things like that. And then with sales, the majority would go towards sales and helping us build out our team with SDRs and AEs and also enhance our tech stack with the tools that they use. The team consists of me and then two other majority partners, Paul Yoakum and Brianna Bateman. Paul handles our marketing and heads up our facilitation. Brianna handles operations, finance, support, and probably wears a half dozen other hats as well right now. Asher heads up our development. And then our advisors are Adrian Gostick and Chester Elton, two New York Times bestselling authors and also minority partners with us. And then John Boyd, who is the co-founder as well as the CRO of Claravine, who I believe just finished their Series B for about $15 or $16 million as well. But that, I can turn the slide here, is how we are going to stem the bleeding of employee turnover and the costs associated with that. But what questions can I answer for you?
Awesome. Thank you so much. Can you unshare so we can see you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great job. Yeah, so this is really good. Earl, so why don't you just give some positive feedback, right? What did you really like about the presentation?
Yeah, certainly. Lance, great job. First of all, I did take quite a few notes and found the topic to be very interesting. I do have some questions, but I think we'll come around to those. I think the positive feedback so far, is you're addressing a real world problem for an employer, who deals with recruiting and retaining talent every day. This is something that we're all working to, a challenge we're all working to solve. And so it's very relevant. For one, I like that you had some data driven, stats and some science behind it. While I'm on that topic, I think maybe the correlation between the problem and the data and then how you solve that could be a little stronger in the pitch, in your explanation. Let's see. The advisory board looks great. That's a really nice piece. I think that you had, all of the basic structure of a good solid pitch deck. Of course, the foremost authority on that, Mr. Tim Cooley's here, and so he'll have some thoughts on that. On if you're missing any slides or there were bonus slides that you can get rid of. But overall, I think it's very relevant. It makes sense. I do have questions about how it all works and stuff. Maybe a few other ideas for you. Outside of that, I'm impressed.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, Jeff, the positive.
Yeah, Lance, first off, I think you do a great job presenting. You're very smooth and, articulate. So I think that's a positive you've got going for you. The other things that I thought were really well done is the problem. I think you came right out of the gate and established the problem. Everybody could relate to that, that there is a challenge in the market, especially right now, that you're addressing, and the problem is big. And so, I think that came across. The other thing that I was really impressed by is the traction that you have. And so, the fact that you've got these big name customers and all of that, I think that's a real positive for you and very impressive. And Earl also mentioned, your board of advisors. I thought that was impressive also. So a lot of good things in this presentation. So I'll let Tim kind of wrap things up on the good side.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
For that.
I agree with what everyone said. Your traction's really good. Obviously, we can help with a lot of other things, but traction's great. You're addressing a real problem that everyone knows is a problem. I have some ideas on how, like Earl said, I think you didn't connect it very well, but I think we can help there. And then, your team is really strong. You're great. I mean, everything everybody said was really good. And crazy enough, I actually know John Boyd, who's your advisor.
Good.
And so this is a really great thing in this. Sometimes what we do is we talk to a general public. If someone on the investment team knows somebody on the advisory team, they will make a phone call. So
Great.
I will reach out to John to see what he says as well. But that is a really good thing because I actually do know him. And so,
Okay.
yeah, so that's great. Let's get into areas of improvement. And Earl, why don't you start with that?
Yeah, let's see. This is definitely a crowded space. There are a lot of, entrenched offerings out there that have been around for several decades. You're going to have an uphill battle. I think you got to figure out a really good way to differentiate. Now, I like the fact that you started that and you said, okay, we're not really a strengths finder. We're not really a personality assessment. We are understanding what your motivators are, right? And what you're passionate about.
Right.
I think that's a really good angle. How you really, embed that into a solid go-to-market strategy and really help yourself stand aside from the crowd of entrenched juggernauts out there is going to be, I think part of the challenge, but I'm not saying it's not doable. I'm just saying that that's something you've got to really think about, because a lot of people I think will be confused about, well, how is this any different than Clifton, or how's this different than Disc, right?
Yeah,
and
we
so,
see that sometimes. You're right.
Yeah. So yeah, figuring out like in your messaging right up front how you really differentiate that, and then in your sales conversations and all that stuff, I think is going to be really important. I do want to understand a little bit more about your current go-to-market strategy, how you're getting revenue right now, but those are more questions. I would add pictures for your team and advisors. Those are, I think, it's a nice little piece to have there, and associate the faces of people. We do business with people, and so having the faces of those people I do think is important. Let's see. Again, just spend more time on how or why the data that you have and that you know of, how that correlates into your platform and how it provides solutions to leaders. I think that will help significantly. This is just off the cusp and just my recommendation. If it were me, I would call the brand Mojo, not Find Mojo. I think in modern business, we're trying to get down more to like really simple brands and phrases. Now there's probably a business called Mojo out there. So
There are a few. We did look into that. So
yeah. Maybe there's some other thing. It's not that I don't like the brand. I do. Just simplifying it might be a good idea, in my opinion, right?
Yeah, no, that's great. Awesome.
Great. Jeff?
Yeah, so starting at the very beginning, I mentioned that the problem was identified really well, and I thought it started out really well. With that said, that first slide, it was also really busy. So you had a lot of text on there. The text was small and a little bit distracting for a presentation like this, because you're not going to be able to, especially if you're sitting away from the screen, you're probably not going to be able to see all that, and it could be a little distracting.
Okay.
So one of the thoughts I had there is you can have two different presentations. This would be a great presentation to send to an investor to have in your deal room, where they can read through all of that. That becomes a readable version of your presentation. For the presentation itself, where you're giving that, sometimes you want to take out some of that text or just kind of simplify it. You can talk to those points, which you did great, but you don't have that distracting text in there when you're doing a presentation on the screen.
Okay.
So, and I think there's a couple other slides in there that might apply to as well, but that was one thing to maybe think about.
Okay, great. Thank you.
In terms of some other thoughts, Earl mentioned on the team slide, definitely include the pictures of the team members, maybe even some logos there on companies that are there, that kind of shows their history and where they've been at, giving them some credibility for your team. Same thing with your advisors. Impressive advisors have their photos, have, a picture of, is it the New York Times or their bestseller, all that type of stuff. But I think that will easily capture the attention of your audience there. And then the other thing I mentioned that I really like the progress that you've made, the fact that you've got these great customers and all, this traction. I would almost put in, some customer testimonials or something like that, and just say, here's a couple of the customers and what they've said about it, and kind of hit on that. Because I think there's a real strength to that. And then finally, I really like the use of your funds. And the reason I like that is that most of this was going to your sales and your marketing. You've already got your product developed out. 17% of the funding was going to go to product dev, which kind of says you're ready to throw some fuel in the fire.
Yeah.
Let's focus on the marketing and the sales and where can that take us. What I didn't see was where that was going to take you. I wanted to see, your revenue. It's like, okay, here's where we're at today. Here's our services revenue, or what we've been doing. Here's, what we're going to eclipse that in our SaaS revenue. And this is what it's going to look like. And here's how many customers we think, this $500,000 is going to get us.
Yeah.
Here's, we're planning on raising another 2 million in, 12 months from now. And that's what that's going to do. And I want to see that, in terms of what this funding is going to do to drive that top line growth.
That's a great point too. I appreciate that. I actually meant to talk to that, and in the efforts to get done a little sooner than anticipated, I skipped that. But thank you. Yeah, you're absolutely right on that.
Yeah. I know it's not my turn.
Sorry. Yeah, just one final point there. On that slide where you've got your customers and their logos and all that, super impressive. But then at the bottom, you had your revenue and some of these key metrics. I would almost make that its own slide and put your projections in there, just because it kind of got crowded out. And that was some really important information and good information that I want to know as an investor.
Okay. Thank you.
I was just going to say really quick that, and I don't know what Tim's thoughts are on this, the guy that, again, literally wrote the book on pitching, right? But I rarely see founders provide, sort of a roadmap on ROI for the investment. And I do think it's important. I realize that a lot of investors are going to get into that conversation later on with you if they like, what you're presenting to them. I think a cursory sort of, approach to that, as Jeff has said, provide some tangible, what this $500,000 is going to get us, how are we going to increase our revenue, and give a picture to the investors right off the bat of where their money is going to go, not only where it's going to go, but what it's going to produce and how that's going to potentially, produce ROI and, on their investment.
Would you recommend a slide for that, or just talk to it more?
I would probably defer to Tim's expertise there, but maybe maybe that pie chart's, it's pretty big, but that's nice for a presentation like this. Maybe to one side the pie chart, and then on the other side show ROI projections, or your projections of scale based upon those investments, something to that effect. Again, Tim will have you want to listen to him on this, not me.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to continue with what Earl was saying, is there's three ways you can do what they're asking. One is you don't have a finance slide, like the projections next 3 to 5 years. So that covers that part of it. You don't have you have the use of funds, which is great, but you don't have the milestones that you're trying to accomplish slide, and you can combine those. Usually, like what we like to see is, what have you done up till today, and then what do you plan to do with the funding? So, and these are milestones, like like you had get to $1 million or $500,000 in ARR, but I want to know like major, like product 2 comes out, whatever the things are.
Yeah.
And then the third thing is like an exit opportunity slide. So based off the industry we're in, these are the type of acquisitions that have been happening, and you can do that right before your final slide, which is a note, should be your ask slide. Your ask slide should always be the last slide. I think yours went team and then appendix.
Yes.
And so Where I'm on a mission to get people to stop doing thank you slides and end on an ask slide. So
Okay, that's great.
and your ask slide really should be a combination of the ask itself. You didn't have the terms on your slide, so I would add that. And then it would remind people what the use of funds are, as well as the milestones that you plan to hit. So if you can combine all those into a final ask slide and just leave it there, that would be awesome. I'm going to reiterate a couple things. One thing that I think that this is a really beautiful pitch in a lot of ways, because you actually almost start with you should start with the competition in a way. You did that pie chart, and that really actually is alluding to the problem statement that there are all these providers out there that are actually targeting strengths in this thing, but they're really missing the motivator. It was what your argument is.
Yeah.
But what you told us is $165 billion was spent on letting employees go. That's what you presented to us. Not that there's an opportunity to cap, like though there's all this money being spent and they're missing this other motivating factor, right? Like the motivation part. They're tracking strength, they're tracking these things. But the way you presented it is like all these people, there's literally spent $170 billion and people are still leaving. Like that's kind of what I think that's what you were trying to say, but that's not the way it was presented.
Okay.
And that's actually a beautiful introduction. We also didn't get to learn about you. I have no idea what your background is. I don't know why this industry is interesting to you. Like, I would have loved, and this is something we were trying to get people to do a little bit, is tell us a little bit about you in the beginning and why you became either aware of this problem, or if you're the CEO to take this to the next level, like that would be really, really nice. Like, for example, if Earl came to me with an idea about shoes, we would bring on a CEO that sold shoes before, right? Like, and they would pitch this company because neither of us had that thing. But if we started a shoe company and we were like, we've been in shoes for 20 years, then it makes sense for me to present that company.
Okay,
right?
that makes sense. Yeah.
Let me think here. Yeah, I think that really covers a lot of it. Oh, and the other thing that I really think that you need here is the marketing strategy, because like Earl mentioned, this is a very, very competitive space. Your guys it would almost be really good to say, and I hate this phrase, but I'm going to use it anyways. We've got a pipeline of this many companies. But if you can show us, like, look, for every 100 calls we make, we get 3 demos to this thing, that sales funnel reiterates the fact that you guys need to put fuel in the fire on marketing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Not every pitch needs that, but I think for the industry you're in, that's actually a very effective slide.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, thank you.
But overall, I will say you did a really good job. Like, you gave us a lot of really good information. We're nitpicking so that you can take it to the next level.
I get that. I want that. So thank you.
Yeah. So this brings it down to the final question then. Based off of what we heard today, not what you know about the industry, not what we've learned from you since, but Earl, would you take this company into due diligence?
Probably not due diligence right away, but I would want to have another conversation with Lance. I think there was a lot of unanswered questions here, but it was adequately intriguing. The problem was adequately intriguing. The solution was adequately intriguing, that I would want to have a sidebar with Lance and understand some more and get some of these questions answered. But now you've gotten a lot of really good feedback, and Tim, was spot on with a lot of that. I think you're going to kind of have the perfect pitch deck, ready to move forward here. And after that, after you kind of answer all those questions, I may, be one of the ones that said, raised my hand and said, hey, I want to take a closer look at this, and I'm interested in doing due diligence with you.
Love it. Thank you. It's great.
Jeff?
Yeah, so I'm kind of in this weird predicament here, because I like the fact that you sent me the assessment beforehand. I thought it was awesome. I thought that was powerful to take that beforehand. And so I had that to go off of, and then the fact that you've got this product that's ready to go and that you just need some money to fuel the fire and kind of take sales off was kind of like, okay, I think we could work with this. At the same time, I didn't quite get the well, where's this going to take us? You know, where are we going? And that's kind of the missing piece. At the very least, I would say, you know, hey, I want to learn more. Lance, you know, get me some financials, get me your plan of action. I'd like to see that and maybe dig in. Is that the due diligence phase? I don't know, maybe like Earl said, it's almost the step before the due diligence, but
Yeah.
You did get me intrigued enough to say, I want to keep talking and I want to get you to the due diligence phase, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know that we could quite get there yet, but I think we would get there with
Okay.
the conversation. So I hope that's helpful. Tim, does that answer suffice?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
In the middle.
No,
Yeah.
you know what? Those Earl and Jeff, both of your questions or concerns give me something to come back with, right? To solve that concern to move to the next step. So
Yeah,
no, it's great.
If you can pin that down in your presentation, then you know you can move into the diligence. Okay, I see where this is going. I think we could, you know, dig in a little bit deeper. But because those things were missing, there's probably another side conversation, like Earl said.
Yeah. No, great. Thank you. That's very helpful feedback.
Yeah, and I'm going to agree with both Earl and Jeff. I think you're right in that weird spot. It's really an interesting market. I think everybody who owns businesses wants to tackle this issue. I think having taken the assessment too, I would give it to my entire team, right? This is not a problem of what could be sold. I think that you have a client if my company can afford it. I love these things and we use them for hiring. And so I'm interested in the product itself. From the investment, you didn't give me anything to be excited about. Like, right. Like, and I think that's the thing that's missing from all of us. I hope that's kind of what you're hearing.
I am.
Yeah. And so, yeah. So like I said, I wouldn't move it to due diligence, but I would love to I'm going to follow you. I'll probably end up buying it at some point. And I think that's not a bad thing either. An investment of cash in services is not a bad investment.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we got for you guys today. I really thanks for Earl for joining us as a guest investor from Nexus IT. If you guys need help with your pitch decks, please reach out to us. Please come apply and present. And if you're looking for help on the finance side, check out Forecaster. It's a really great platform. And until then, thanks again.
Thanks, guys.